In 1971, I did an experiment at Stanford University, which has now become world famous. And in fact, there is a new Hollywood movie called The Stanford Prison Experiment, which is about to be screened all over America and ultimately here in Europe. In that study, we thought of the environment as the social environment. It was an environment where it was in the basement of the psychology department at Stanford University, where there were no windows. There was a long, narrow corridor, and there were two environments for the prisoners. There was the cell they lived in, which was 3 prisoners lived in a tiny cell, also with no windows. And then the common space was a long, narrow yard. That was a table where they could eat, but also where they would exercise and where they would get punishment by the guards. The conclusion of this study is that we put good people, bright, intelligent, normal college students from all over America into this simulated prison. And the prisoners lived there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The guards worked 8-hour shifts. And the idea was, if you filled a prison, which is always an evil place, with good people, do the good people change the evil of the place? Or does the situational forces in that place, playing a role in uniforms, change the good people? And the answer was the second. Humanity 0, evil place 1. What we didn't think about until recently is that the other kind of environment is the physical environment, the natural environment. So really, I feel guilty because I created an evil physical space. There were no windows. There was no natural air. There was no light. There was of course, no green, no flowers. And this is what is true in most prisons around the world, but it's also true in most ghetto areas. I grew up in New York City as a poor child from a Sicilian background in poverty. And where I grew up, there were no trees. There were no flowers, there was no grass, just concrete everywhere. And in our playground, we had to climb a big fence to get from asphalt in the street to concrete. And when you grow up with that, you don't realize what is missing from the picture. Until I show that picture, I look at it, and people are horrified. They say, no, but this is not just a little place in New York. In every poor place, in every city, in every world, you grew up with what's missing is nature. Individuals need to synchronize their psychological nature with external nature. So this is the thing I've been interested in since then. And I've been doing research on what are the different things that enhance both mental health and physical health. And curiously, there's a lot of research which says physical exercise is the single most important thing people can do. That to exercise every day improves both physical health, strength, well-being, but also your mental health. But the single best place to do it is not in a gymnasium, it's outdoors in nature. I'm convinced that one of the most important aspects of promoting human nature is to be able to set human nature within physical nature. It's liberating for the spirit to be in a park, to be in a public space where there's trees and flowers and birds and squirrels, rat, whatever. Certainly to be near, if we're possible, to near water, near a lake or river or a bay or ocean. And it's only recently that public planners have become aware of that. That it's not simply a nice thing, pretty thing to have a park or a garden row. I think it's essential for creating a vibrant community in every city. I want to make an interesting contrast between San Francisco, a city I live in and love, and Budapest, a city I have just developed a love for. In San Francisco, we do not have a single pedestrian mall, pedestrian street, where cars are forbidden. We have on Sunday, outside of the center of the city, a short area that's closed off for cars. And it's wonderful. Families walk, there are rickshaws to drive you. There's often street musicians, people on bikes. And it's just wonderful. When you go there, you just feel special. Now, when people try to protest to the city that we should have pedestrian malls in the heart of town, let's say in the Italian area, Columbus area, the enemy are businesses. Businesses say, it'll hurt our business. It's just the opposite. The contrast I want to make with San Francisco, with no pedestrian mall, is that in Budapest, recently they got a big grant from the European Union to build 2 pedestrian malls that go across the whole city, north, south, east, west. And I was there before they had the streets finished, and I was there this year when they finished. It transforms the life of the city. People are walking, individuals, whole families. Now what springs up are cafes on the sidewalk. Musicians are there. And so I go to Budapest every year. I have I'm part of a Hero Fest foundation. And I can't wait to go there. And I always say I want to be in an apartment, Airbnb, you know, on that place, Vaci Street, rather than to be in a hotel, which are usually, you know, in some remote place. Part of the reason is I feel uplifted walking there. It's exhilarating. So a vibrant, natural environment produces a sense of exhilaration in people. So again, it's that how do we persuade city planners to analyze the map of this city and say, where can we put more pedestrian, I'm going to call them pedestrian lanes, let's say, not malls. Malls means a bad thing for me. Pedestrian lanes that will make the city more vibrant. So one question is, what would our future look like if there were no public spaces in our cities? The answer simply in one word is bleak. That we need public spaces of all kinds. I mean, spaces that we are embedded in the natural environment. We also need social public spaces. Spaces we can go where we know other people will be there. Because we need to connect to other people. Too many people are living a life of relative isolation. You work all day, you come home, you eat, you watch television, I'm saying for adults. And more families are smaller. You don't have the big traditional family you used to have. More and more people everywhere don't have family meals together. And so we need a place that, you know, if I go, there will be other people around. And then we want to encourage activities in those public spaces that make it easy for people to connect to strangers. Have different kind of competitions, different activities. In many places they used to have in parks for children puppet shows. That a lot of children get together and you watch a puppet show, and then you get the children to enact with you. And some places now they have a juggler who teaches people around to juggle. We need activities that not only involve many people, but activities which promote social interaction. Because again, too many people, not just boys playing video games, but too many people feel isolated, feel I'm not connected to other people, certainly not outside of my family. And so that's, it's related to the importance of public space, but it's not just, up to now I've just been talking about the importance of the natural environment. But essentially we have to rethink our public spaces how do we create a more vibrant social environment so that when I go there, and again, also many people live alone. Many young people are not getting married, live alone, and work. Many work settings don't involve interaction. So I need a place that I know if I go there, I can meet other people. Now, it used to be the function of coffee houses, really starting in Paris, would be a place you go. The excuse was to have coffee. The real reason is to talk. Now people go to coffee house because they have Wi-Fi, and they don't talk. They're on their cell phone. So again, we need places that encourage, in different ways, talking. Encourages getting to know other people, getting to know their name, asking them, what do you do, who are you? A potential place to make a friend. So this is what I think is missing in every place around the world that I know, is we need more natural environments, as I said, to elevate the spirit with trees and flowers and grass and that air that's not conditioned. But we also need to rethink how in those public spaces we can create a more energetic social space where people have a sense, if I go there, I have the possibility of meeting somebody who could become a friend, or just somebody who I can spend an interesting time talking to them. One of the terrible commercial things from my point of view is the movement away from individual shops. We call mom and pop shops, grocery shops, laundries, whatever, into big commercial shopping centers, shopping malls. And when you go into any of those malls, they create a totally artificial environment. They're playing music. They have trees, or sometimes plastic trees. And many young kids use that as the place to meet. I see you at the mall. And they spend a lot of time, especially in places like in America, in the South, where it's very hot. They're air conditioned. So they make it pleasant for you. So again, you would rather be in the malls, have movies, they have music, they have restaurants, not good restaurants typically, but cheap restaurants. So many young people now spend a lot of their time in this totally artificial environment, and don't know that it's a totally artificial environment because it's the only one they have. There's no question in my mind that a well-designed public space, which the design should involve city planners, should involve naturalists, should involve behavioral psychologists, should involve people from the community from different aspects, should involve some young people as well as older people, should involve handicapped people to say, how do I fit in this environment? I think it's essential for rebuilding community with a big C, that in too many places around the world, society is atomized, if you will. People don't have a sense of being part of Warsaw, being part of San Francisco, being part of whatever it is, and I think. As we said, a really well-designed public space is the antidote to social isolation, and could be the catalyst for creating new social energy. And as I said before, I'm a social psychologist. The core of my being is how can we do things to promote socialization? And I still feel guilty after all these years that I did research that does just the opposite, that isolated young men in this terrible space in order to see what is the consequence of putting good people in an evil space. And we know evil space won over good people. Now we want to see what happens when we put ordinary people in an ideally designed space. In one sense, a metaphor is to think of the new urban planner as someone who is putting the right fertilizer, the right water, and flowering human nature. That human nature will flourish, just as we know in order to get a tulip to grow and to be beautiful, or lily or rose, we need the right fertilizer and the right amount of water and sunshine. So those are three basic elements. And how do we apply that metaphor so that human nature flourishes rather than, as happens in too many places now, is diminishing?